Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Thatboyalex here, and welcome back to another video on this channel. Today, we're going to be reacting to a video by Top 10 Wrestling. It's called the AEW Australia Disaster. As you guys know, yesterday, on my AEW Dynamite stream, I ranted about the AEW Grand Slam Australia show and how it should have been a pay-per-view. It was supposed to be a pay-per-view at first. They put it in a 50,000 seat venue in Australia. Then they couldn't sell tickets for it, so they had to push it to a small venue, like around 14,000 people. So this video, we're gonna go into more in depth about this show, about this disaster of a show, and how it had to be pushed back to a smaller venue. You know, barely in a promotion for the show until the last minute, basically. And yeah, we're 2 weeks out from this show. So yeah, man, but without further ado, we're gonna get straight into it in 3, 2, 1.
AEW's first ever show in Australia is coming up, and it's a disaster before it's even happened. In fact, it's been a disaster for this show from the moment it was announced. AEW Grand Slam Australia has suffered from low ticket sales, changing venues, and horrible logistics and scheduling that has probably killed the ratings for this show. So how did we get to this point with AEW Grand Slam Australia? Well, to figure that out, we need to go back to the start, because as I alluded to earlier, AEW Grand Slam Australia was dead on arrival. Like the video and let's talk about it. Right, so AEW Grand Slam Australia as a show was officially announced at AEW All In last year, and it was announced to take place on February 15th, 2025 at the Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, Australia. And this show is set to be AEW's first ever show outside of North America and the United Kingdom. But AEW immediately were questioned for holding their first Aussie event in Brisbane, rather than the more obvious territories of Sydney or Melbourne, and that immediately put into question how well AEW Grand Slam Australia was going to do ticket sales wise, especially as it was set to be at the near 60,000 capacity Suncorp Stadium, so only time was going to tell how well this event was going to sell. And sure enough, there was some silence on the event for a while, as AEW would continue to promote it, but there wasn't too much chatter around the event and the ticket sales. Well, the ticket sales for this event weren't looking good, as AEW had very clearly overshot and not thought this one through. And sure enough, on November 25th, it was announced that AEW Grand Slam Australia would be moving from the Suncorp Stadium to a smaller venue, the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, which has a capacity of roughly 13,500, which is just under a quarter of what the capacity of the last venue was. So AEW had significantly downscaled for this show. It was definitely the right move to downscale the venue, because if they still ran this show at the stadium, oh my word, the amount of empty seats would have been insane. Yeah. But hey, unlucky to all those people who bought tickets.
And thankfully, they did not keep it at a stadium, because like you said, bro, like, if they was to hold this show at a stadium, at that stadium still, and still wasn't enough tickets being sold, do you know the discourse on social media? Oh my God, look at all these empty seats. It would have been a disaster. And they did not think this through. You know, Brisbane, Australia, I think they should have waited it out another year. That is just my honest take. Before they go out and they do another stadium show. Now, I know they got All in Texas, but those tickets, I don't even think they're moving pretty good. I have to check WrestleTix later on and see, but yeah, they should have waited another year before doing another overseas stadium show, like, you know, in Australia or you know, or where else can I think of? France, anything like that, anything outside of London. They should have waited another year, in my opinion.
for this show when it was still a stadium event and had to pay stadium ticket prices to an event that is now in a smaller arena. Unlucky. But just recently things got even worse for this event, and I'm not even talking about ticket sales, I'm talking about the horrible planning from AEW for the broadcast of this event. The entire time that AEW Grand Slam Australia was announced for, it had been unconfirmed whether or not this was going to be a pay-per-view or a special episode of Dynamite or Collision like previous Grand Slam events were. However, sure enough, on the January 15th episode of Dynamite this year, it was revealed to be none of these, as it would be airing on Saturday, February 15th as a standalone TV special, simulcasting on TNT and Max, airing a tape delay of the show in place of Collision at 8 PM Eastern Standard Time. AEW opted not to air the show live, as that meant it would be airing at 2:30 AM, so instead they're airing it 16 hours later. So if you want to watch this show and not get spoiled, well, you're gonna have to stay off Twitter all day. And by the way, like I said, this is all what AEW announced. They announced that this was airing at 8 PM Eastern Standard Time. However, I don't know if AEW realized this at the time they aired this, or if it was an error or just awful planning, because as it turns out, the 8 PM time slot on TNT that Saturday is already taken up by NBA All-Star Game coverage. And so AEW Grand Slam Australia would be airing on TNT actually after the NBA All-Star coverage at whatever time that may be, which was confirmed today in a broadcast listing as being 10:30 PM Eastern Standard Time, 2.5 hours later. And it still remains unconfirmed when it's airing on Max, if it's going to be a simulcast or not, or if they do it live, as nothing yet has been announced by AEW themselves, though Dynamite is tonight as I'm recording this video, so maybe some clarity will be given. And I mean, I sure hope so, because this event is 2 weeks away now. And in terms of how ticket sales have been doing as of late, as we're just weeks away from the show like I said, well, recently AEW have started offering buy one get one free tickets as they struggle to sell tickets still. So yeah, just awful planning all round, awful in terms of the event and the locational planning and the stadium and the venue and all of that, and awful in terms of the planning and the logistics of the broadcasting. I really hope AEW listing the show as 8 PM Eastern is just an error and they didn't just forget that the NBA is airing on TNT that day. But yeah, just horrible planning from the very beginning this show was announced from until now. It's just not looking good for AEW Grand Slam Australia. But in terms of the card that AEW is building up for this show, so far we only have 2 matches confirmed as I'm recording this video, and like I said before, Dynamite is tonight, so maybe some more will be announced, but so far the only ones announced are Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, and Mariah May versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. Both these matches should be very decent. The tag match had some really good build this last week on Dynamite, with that double moonsault spot was pretty crazy, and Mariah May and Toni Storm has been one of the best storylines in recent AEW history, and Toni Storm has easily been one of AEW's biggest success stories, and I imagine she'll win this match here and reclaim her title in her home country. I'm really not sure though. Mariah winning this match would be a great way to get heat on her. As for the rest of the card though, the most rumored and likely matches on this card are Buddy Matthews and Kazuchika Okada for the AEW Continental title. There was a segment with them this past week on TV. I think this would be a great match for the card, both great wrestlers. Buddy Matthews of course is also Australian. I wouldn't see him winning this match, but again, I think this is the perfect match to make for this card, and an easy match of the night contender. Another match that is also rumored is Harley Cameron versus Mercedes Moné. They also had some interactions this past week on TV. Harley Cameron, also Australian. Once again, I wouldn't see her winning this match, but I think this is a good match to make here. Mercedes Moné isn't exactly in a storyline with anyone right now, so leading into Grand Slam Australia, I think the best person to face her is the only other Australian woman on the roster, which is Harley Cameron. And Harley Cameron is definitely an underrated worker, and I think this could definitely be a good match. And the other rumored one is Jay White versus Jon Moxley. Jay White's kind of been lingering around the AEW World title scene for a while now, so I reckon he'll probably challenge Jon Moxley at Grand Slam Australia. I don't know what the reception will be for him because he's from the neighboring New Zealand, but this is definitely the match to make for the world title at this show. So I think all 3 of those matches are likely to happen, and there'll probably be some sort of build for them on tonight's Dynamite or on TV this week, or some sort of formal announcements for some actual matches for AEW Grand Slam Australia, because like I said,
should be the matches for that show. Honestly, I am down to see I'm honestly down to see all those. Mercedes Moné versus Harley Cameron, John Moxley versus Jay White. That's probably gonna be for the AEW World Title, I'm assuming. So they'll probably do that. Buddy Matthews versus Kazuchika Okada. That should be a good match. That could have, low key, that could have been. You know, if you didn't have the show, you could save these for Revolution. I'm just saying. But yeah, Harley Cameron, I will say, I got some positive to say about her. Yeah, she is an underrated worker. I will agree with what he said. You know, Harley Cameron, I think she can be something special in a couple of years. You know, she has a lot of potential. You know, and I believe, you know, the sky's the limit for Harley Cameron, in my honest opinion. So, yeah, moving on.
There's only 2 matches on this show, and I imagine if this is a TV special, it will be around 2 to 3 hours, so maybe 7 or 8 matches on this card in total. So I thought I would propose some matches here that would make sense to appear on this AEW Grand Slam Australia card. Starting off with Samoa Joe and Christian Cage. Samoa Joe has gotten involved with Hook and the Patriarchy's feud. I think this match would make sense. They've not had a match against each other since 2008 in TNA, and Samoa isn't too far off from Australia, so I think this match makes sense to put on there. Since it's airing on TNT, it also makes sense for TNT champion Daniel Garcia to defend his belt on this show, and I imagine since he's in a feud right now with the Undisputed Era, that one of the members of that group would challenge him. I'll go with Kyle O'Reilly to challenge Daniel Garcia at this show, why not? Swerve versus Ricochet on this show I think could also be a good match to have. I think Swerve is a guy who is such a big star in AEW that you just want him on every show you have, every big show to wrestle on, and he's currently feuding with Ricochet. I think they could have a good match on this show. I don't know if this would get booked on here though. I also propose MJF versus Jeff Jarrett to take place on this show, as it seems as though they're doing some sort of program, and if we want to get it over and done with, then do it on this show. Don't leave it till a pay-per-view. And the Death Riders just need to defend their trios titles. I can't remember the last time they did. So since this is a TV special and mostly kind of like a non-canon event, why not have them defend the belts against the home country boys of TMDK? Yeah, they aren't signed to AEW, but this can just be a one-time match. The Death Riders just need to defend those belts, like come on. And then a couple of possible 0-hour matches if they do a 0 hour for this show. I doubt they do, but I'm just proposing these for fun. Home country boy Mark Davis versus the Beast Mortos, and Jamie Hayter versus local Australian wrestler Lena Cross. I say local as if Australia isn't absolutely massive, but these 2 matches I think could be fun for the pre-show. Mark Davis versus Beast Mortos, just a good hoss match, and Jamie Hayter versus Lena Cross, just pure fantasy booking from my part, I can't lie. Yeah, those are the matches I'd propose to the rest of the card for AEW Grand Slam Australia, and yeah, I'll be the first one to say it's not the strongest card I've proposed here, but obviously this isn't a pay-per-view, it's a TV special, so I'm proposing matches that would probably make sense for a show of this level and status. And these matches can't save the disaster that this show has been so far in the build up to it. Just an awfully planned show from AEW, like I said, and even now with just 2 weeks away from the show, with only 2 matches announced and not many other matches really built up all that much. Like I said though, Dynamite is tonight, something could easily happen on Dynamite to build up these matches more, but I think there should have been some earlier build regardless. But guys, leave it down below in the comments, what are your thoughts on this entire lead up to AEW Grand Slam Australia that takes place in the middle of next month, and maybe what other matches you would like to see happen on this show. That's been it from me on this video. Like it if you did enjoy, and subscribe with those notifications on so you never miss a video on this channel. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.
Alright. We're gonna say that for later. This coming up. That's in this video we'll react to. But yeah, this is just awful planning from AEW. I think they should have just left this alone. They should have just feel like they should have just canned this show and just waited another year to run another show outside of London overseas. If they wanted to run another show outside of London, I think they should have waited another year to do that. But yeah, man, it was just poor planning. And, you know, the booking of the show, it doesn't help either. When you're only drawing like 506,000 viewers, really doesn't help. So overall, this was just bad planning. You know, you had to move it to a smaller venue, then you turn it from a pay-per-view to a TV special, because this was supposed to be a pay-per-view. No way this was going to be a TV special in a 60,000 stadium. No way. No way. This show was supposed to be a pay-per-view. But yeah, man, they just gotta do better planning, honestly. And you know, the booking, if the product was actually good, this show could have stayed at a pay-per-view. You could have sold tickets for this show if you had a good product put out there. That's another thing too. You don't have a good product that you're putting on television. And when you're not putting on a good product on television, your ticket sales go down, your numbers go down, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. So honestly, that is my take on it. AEW needs to do a better job of planning these shows next time, if they're going to do one of these next time, which they will in the future. They're planning All In Texas. They keep showing that like months in advance. They keep promoting that show. Crazy. Even though the show's in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Yeah, 5.5 months. So yeah. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about this AEW Australia show. Will you be checking it out? Will you be watching it? It's supposed to air after NBA All-Star weekend. All-Star coverage Saturday night. So the show's probably going to start around 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern time at night. So we'll have to see what goes on there. But yeah, man. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.